is Nugget Phoebe Flowers, and this is the Marz Variety Show. It is August 19th, 2026 in the mucky Southern California. And today, we're going to talk about everything announced at D23. We're going to talk about the Lanterns, the first episode a little bit, before my dad reviews it next week. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about the Pokemon collabs for the anniversaries. And then we're going to do a review of a couple things. Thank you for slating for me, Nugget. Love you. Hey, everybody. This is your host, Marz, here at the Marz Variety Show. As my favorite third daughter just said, it is August 19th, 2026. And we finna chat today. Honestly, once again, I gotta plug my my stream anyway. Twitch.tv/Marz Flowers. If you're seeing this particular episode on the re-record, today in particular, I think I recorded at like 6:41. We quick recorded this, and then we're gonna be playing Pokemon Champions because I think last week the ladder reset. So if you guys like Pokemon Champions, you like gaming, you just like the personality, make sure you come check out the Twitch stream, Marz Flowers. Also Instagram at Marz Flowers. Also, the Marz Variety Show is on Instagram at the Marz Variety Show, that's where we post all our podcast clips. I don't just be spamming my personal with my podcast clips anymore. So, if you need a reminder when the podcast is out, you want to see what topics are going around. If you put the podcast on early in the week and you need a reminder to watch it in the later part of the week, just follow me on social media. Is that perfect thing. You see, you scroll up, you see me. Hey, Marz is talking about Transformers. And then you're reminded to go listen to the podcast. So, there we go. Today, I am going to low-key blind react to everything announced at D23. I knew it happened last week. I wasn't too teed into it too much. Like, I made a TikTok kind of making fun of the Doomsday trailer a little bit. So we're going to blind react to that. We're going to talk a little bit about Lanterns episode 1. I'm not going to review the show until next week. I kind of figured out a little system for myself that like season openers are really good once there's 2 to 3 episodes out already. And that's how I like to name those name those podcasts or name those episodes on YouTube. So I like to wait for like 2-3 episodes to come out and then we can do a season opener. Sometimes you guys will get me to do like, you guys will see me post up like first half review or something like that. That's usually just because I don't get to a show until like halfway until it's out. On that note, I have to talk to my producer because I'm going to hire a producer because I realize we don't talk about movies a lot. I've been really stuck on like a TV show like kick for the last couple of weeks. And it's mostly because like, I had a really rigorous schedule for a little bit. So I got to get back into the movie reviews. On the back end, we have like the Substack I got to make content for. So there's that. So there's definitely going to be more movie reviews. I definitely wish the podcast itself had 2 TV show reviews and 2 movie reviews a month. And then I'll splice something else in between, like a character profile or something. So just a little update. On that note, let's do this blind reaction, you guys. So everything announced at D23. Hold up. Okay. Ugh. So D23 is Disney's like yearly event where they preview all of their big movie, TV shows, and just the big things that they're going to be producing for the year. As you guys can tell from the little like teaser real quick, I think that I'm not sure what this one on the far left is. That might be Percy Jackson. There's the Bluey movie that has been like teased for years now. We're getting that. You see Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom is here. Ahsoka season 2. I just learned about this today that Ahsoka season 2 will be coming. And Cinderella? I'm not sure. So we're just gonna go through everything that was revealed at D23. I'm kind of gonna get my opinions on all this good stuff. I have to do a sound effect, something. Okay. So we're just gonna go through everything that has been announced. We're gonna talk about kind of the things that we've heard from them. If I have outside information, I'll tell you guys when I'm gonna be giving you guys outside information about some of this stuff. But number one, Incredibles 3. Pixar Peter Doctors teased Incredible 3s, which was focused on the two eldest kids, Violet and Dash, as they prove themselves capable of following in their parents' footsteps. They want to prove that they're ready to be real supers, and their parents aren't quite convinced. So they've been sneaking out at night to protect the city. And it doesn't go over so well at home. To make matters worse, they're struggling to contain Jack. A new threat is taking a heavy toll on Bob, who's grappling with his own relevancy in the world of supers that may have outgrown him. Because even though supers are legal again, it doesn't mean all supers are good. Okay. So we are getting a new Incredibles movie. It's nice. It's chill. And honestly, I like the premise of this. Soups are now legal again because of Incredibles 2, which is an amazing movie. I saw that movie a couple years ago. Ooh, the action scenes in those are fire. But now that soups are legal again, the two children members want to be able to prove themselves as supers. Jack, whose powers were revealed to the rest of the family last movie, I bet his powers are starting to get out of control. Hopefully they age him up a little bit. And then, Bob's relevancy, I think, is another big like Mel not feeling like he fits into the world, the modern world type of story. And I think this fits for something like The Incredibles 3. One, I've been wanting a story more centric on the kids anyway lately. Dash and Violet are very good characters. They have very good, cool power sets. Jack as a jack of all trades type of soup, he has a lot of story potential. But to already go into this idea that not all supers are good, mostly because the last one already gave us that someone trying to be good but actually having nefarious ulterior motives. I want to see how this movie is going to do it. It is going to be a little bit different because the character themselves will be probably a superpowered character. But Incredibles 3, I'm excited for this. I know a lot of people like to complain that there's not enough original movies. There's not enough original ideas out there. And we could go into a really big deep dive about how people are afraid to go out to the movies and watch original ideas. Original ideas are not something people want to waste their money on, quote unquote. Not saying that art is a waste of money, but you know what I mean, colloquially. But so I'm really happy when things like The Incredibles 3s come out, where they're gonna take the narrative and actually do something with it, actually tell a story about it. I think that is a praise that I have about the modern Toy Story movies. Sure, you will keep making Toy Story movies, but constantly having good stories about growing up and then exploring grown-up matters through the toys themselves. Chef kiss if you want to keep printing money. Okay, let's say. Now, this is the one that I'm hyped for. So we saw that we're getting a Kingdom Hearts series. There's other Kingdom Hearts related news that came out at D23 this time around. But D23 has Disney Plus has greenlit a Kingdom Hearts series based off the games. It'll have a reimagination. I feel like this is a way for them to actually tell the actual story of Kingdom Hearts. A lot of people in the fandom, like to make jokes about how convoluted Kingdom Hearts as a series is. I watched a video quite a while ago just talking about Ventus himself and Xehanort, how many different versions of him there is. But also, I think this is also going to motivate me personally to start playing Kingdom Hearts. I've been struggling to find something to play offline on my Thor recently. So I think just downloading all the Kingdom Hearts would be a good idea. And man, Riku, I've been watching some video essays, getting prepared to write some more detailed work. And I watched one about Riku recently and how Riku was the first main Disney character to talk about darkness being not necessarily a negative thing. How accepting the darkness in your heart, accepting the bad things in life can help you grow as a person. And just chef kiss. Those are good things that are like painted into the narratives of these things. Like people are not digging too much into stuff when they're talking about allegories of like depression and stuff in these stories. So Pixar's next animated movie is going to be called Ghostmark, following a young boy named Kyle who walks into a dark, empty kitchen after he has been forced to move to Hawaii by his family. After buying a nice warm bowl of soup, he is transported to a world of hungry ghosts. And it's promising to be a scary movie, not like other scary movies. I'm not a big scary movie guy in the first place. I mean, catch me on a good thriller sometimes. And I mean, kid horror movies, I'm over my head. But I'm happy that we're getting something that looks like it's going to be taking a risk. Let's see. They don't really have any information outside of some of the cast that will be there. It'll be out next March. Oh no, March of 2028. Hopefully we get to see something visually from it soon. We have seen that we're getting a Coco 2. And we've seen the boy has grown up. He got that Edgar haircut. It is nice. It's nice. I saw Coco maybe once. And mostly so I can see the villain thing. So it would be nice to kind of see it'll be nice to see how this story moves forward. It looks like this is going to be a revenge tale for Ernesto de la Cruz. I wouldn't be too surprised if Ernesto doesn't have kids out in the real world who are like their lives are affected because of the things that Miguel has done. And I'm pretty sure we're going to explore the multifaceted part of that. We'll see. Like, man, look at this. They got the boy all grown up. Okay. God, oh my God. He looks like such a Gen Z kid. Wildness. Even got the kind of like modern boots and the millennial cut. Oh my God. They really clocked this one. Crazy. Man, crazy we were just talking about this show on the podcast last week, and now we get to talk about some really good news about it. So the Bluey movie teaser trailer came out the other day. It will be the first animated movie for the Bluey franchise, and it'll be releasing next year in August. I would play the trailer here, but I got hit with that copyright strike. But as you can see, that they've done a pretty good job adapting that 2D Bluey style to 3D. They could have really done it wrong, but they kind of went for like a soft 3D effect, not like a harsh real life. It looks like they've just made the world of Bluey 3D. But it's really nice. It's really cool. I really like this show. I think this show does a lot of good when it comes to like teaching kids how to resolve conflict. It has a lot of good adult humor in it when we're talking about like the parents' plot lines stuff. Just so stuff like parents are not bored with it, but it's like it digs a little deeper. There's a whole episode talking about Chili and her sister's jealous of Chili because Chili has 2 kids, Bluey and Bingo. But Chili's younger sister can't have kids. She has a medical condition at the time that prevented her from being just, overly fertile. And then we talk about it, and then you slowly see the arc she goes on to meeting someone and having a kid. And like, it's crazy. It's real crazy. It's a really good movie. I mean, it's a really good show. And I believe the movie is going to do its justice. Now I get to do my rant for the first time. I get to do my rant for the first time on this podcast. Why in the hell are we doing a live action Tangle? Hands in the air. Hands in the fucking air. Why? Didn't this movie come out when I was like in high school? Is Tangle such a cash cow for Disney? I know it has that little animated series on like Disney Junior and stuff, but do you need to spend this much money to slide this franchise through the mud? Are you doing it because you don't really have the rights to the original stories? So you realize once you take the stories, remix it a little bit, that you now have the rights to these particular version of these stories. So you want to milk it as much as you can because you now realize that a lot of your stuff is going to hit the public domain at some point. But honestly, who asked for this? Who wants this? I rather you spend every dollar that you want to spend in a live action, whatever movie, Disney, whatever live action movie you want to do, and I just put that real good chunk of billions of dollars to the Descendant series for reals. That's your cash cow. You want to get a bunch of parents to fangirl with their kids? I want a Descendants TV show on prime time. I want a Descendants movie in the theaters. I want a Descendants Hero Collector mini game. And I know y'all cooking because they put Moesha Cinderella inside of Descendants and was just like, yeah, it's canon. So I know y'all want to give it some love. So put some marketing money into it. And stop doing these wannabe live action shows. Unless, Disney, is this how you are giving prequels to your Descendant franchise this way? Because I'll take this whole rant back. If Disney is building a back catalog for their Descendants franchise. I'll shut the fuck up. If you guys don't know, Descendants is a series by Disney where a lot of the main characters are children from beloved Disney characters. The first couple of series is strictly about, I want to say Maleficent's daughter. Is it Maleficent or it's Maleficent's daughter that we follow for the first couple of series. I watched that with my Otis. Oh my God. At some point it got somewhat decent. RIP to the little homie. I know one of the actors had a tragic fate. But for the parents in the chat, let me stop. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know what's going on with Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I'm not gonna joke with you. I should probably watch this show because I actually like Greek and Roman mythology. Says the guy whose name Marz. But I don't know. I've read a book or two in high school for AR points. I gotta catch it up. Maybe I'll just catch the first season. I heard it's better Harry Potter. That's probably the most positive thing I've heard about Percy Jackson. That book nerds say that Percy Jackson is just a better Harry Potter, which Harry Potter's pretty generic at the end of the day. It doesn't really cook until the last couple books. But apparently Percy Jackson and Olympians is a fire series from beginning to end. And if Disney is throwing 3 seasons behind it, maybe it is. Maybe we gotta check it out. Damn. For y'all who caught that on the playback, that was 3 dams. Jon Favreau is doing a 3-part series on the Rabbit Oswald. Okay, for people who are not big production internet cartoon nerds, Oswald is kind of the counterpart to Mickey Mouse. He's the rabbit counterpart to Mickey Mouse. I think the last time he was very big in the public conscious is when they had a game on the Wii U. But man, I love Oswald. When I went to Disneyland, I wanted Oswald ears so bad, and I had to get Mickey ears because Oswald's ears are only at California Adventure. That's what I should do for my birthday. But okay, we're getting a cool little Oswald 3-part series. Cool little celebration of the boy, which is cool, which is fun. I like when nerds like Jon Favreau get to do fun projects like this. It warms my heart because even if you don't know nothing about Oswald, they put so much love and care into series like this that it's just going to be a good watch no matter what. You're just going to appreciate the art for what it is. Okay, I hope I ain't got more of this. I ain't got nothing about Rami and Michelle too. I know someone who may know, but I know nothing of this. Ice Age boiling point? What? Talking about beating a dead horse. I just did that big speech about always having to have a new story for something. I haven't seen none of the Ice Ages, so before I talk shit about it, maybe I should see what the last couple of Ice Ages were. Just to see. Just to see. Just to see. Hey, yo, this is one thing I got spoiled for. Lilo and Stitch 2 is coming summer of 2028. They were teasing that the plot will mostly evolve around Stitch and Angel, which is the female counterpart to Stitch. She's one of the different experiments. I wonder if this is going to be a slight alteration to not the Stitch has a glitch story, but the Lilo and Stitch like prequel movie to the series. Maybe a bunch of the experiments have gotten out. They're coming to look for Jumbo or look for Stitch, and Angel's the one who finds them. That would be a really cool premise, something like that. But it'd be cool. It'd be cool. I'm a big Lilo and Stitch series fan. Like I saw that stuff as a kid really bad. So I'm happy that like a new generation gets to explore this. But man, that last movie got way more flack than it needed to. It was definitely a good little watch, no lie. Ooh, cat series. Cat's cute. Ooh, big cat, small cat, white cat. All cute cats. Okay. Now here we go. Now, I want to talk about the new X-Men cast. Not because I have any particular attachment to any of these people other than Sadie Sink, who I just met last week. No, I saw Strange Things, don't get me wrong. But like, I want to express to y'all how much of an uncle I feel right now. Because like, I just don't know any of these people. Like, I've heard of Kit Connors. I'm happy that Miss Weaving is playing Emma Frost, which, man, we get Snow Bunny mind control. Stop it. Stop it. Man. But like the rest of these kids, I don't know nothing about these kids. Who are these people? Like, this crew of kids are going to come save me, and I'm going to be like, thank you, young man. Thank you for saving me from the evil sentinels. I'm going to see the young black lady being stormed. Black girl magic. And I think it's different because, like, as a kid, you look at Holly Berry and she's like, damn, she's fun. And I'm not saying any of these people are, like, unattractive. I'm just saying, like, hey, yo, this is a swell group of children. Real adorable cast. I did hear we got Homegirl back as X23. That was a rumor, outside information, just like that. But what I think is the most telling part of all of this is the fact, a real telling part of this is the fact that Adam Driver has been cast as Mr. Sinister. And I think this continues this theory that I have that they're trying to do very well to set up a lot of X-Men really like rooted down to like base storylines and not just do big moments like the Phoenix Saga. Like I said when I was talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day, to start Jean's trauma as early as possible. Perfect. Now we see Mr. Sinister. Now we're about to add another layer to, should I just spoil it? Yeah, I'm gonna spoil it. If you guys haven't seen X-Men 97, go see it. That's pretty, like they do a whole 30 issue arc in 30 minutes. Go check it out. But basically, like, Jean gets kidnapped by Sinister. He clones her, and that clone is the one who has Cable. But it's another layer of like fear and trauma and violation that adds to Jean's story, that adds to the fact that she explodes when she becomes the Dark Phoenix. And I'm telling you, every time you see her, she either needs to be showing a true downfall or barely holding it together for the people around her. And showing her greatest ops, there we go. And cool Kit Connors, yeah, Cyclops, you better be a cool humbo. Now, we're gonna talk about some baddies. Ahsoka Season 2 trailer came out. And man, I'm so excited for the series. So, for people who do not know, and Ahsoka's been out for a while, Ahsoka was aiming to start telling a story post The Last Jedi, or The Return of the Jedi, and to start setting up that kind of like prequel time before the sequel series Disney brought out. And what they did was they brought in a very popular villain from the Legend Saga, Grand Emperor Thrall. was also one of the greatest villains in one of the worst Disney shows, Star Wars Rebels. I gotta be. I'm sorry. I episode guide that. Did not watch that episode by episode. But to bring a lot of that stuff that we didn't see because Rebels was not watched by everyone into this modern world, it was done really well. Ezra actually done so well. I still have that little kid genius Jedi energy from him, but without like the years of like trauma atop of him and Maul messing with him. So to see season 2 being geared up to throw out, seeing the fact that we're gonna finish Sabine's story arc, and just to get this New Republic war started, which is probably going to be the reason why the First Order appears in the new series. I wouldn't be too surprised if we don't start seeing like things about like the First Order and why that is formed. I'm pretty sure we're going to start seeing Palpatine pop up in some of these shows to start fleshing out why he popped up at the end of episode 8, at the end of episode 9. Because Star Wars was really good at like fixing their mistakes. I'm excited for this. Also, Rosario Dawson is just big. Also, why wasn't she the night nurse in Spider-Man? She can come back to Marvel unless they're gearing her up to be a new Marvel character at some point. Now, Vision Quest was shown off at D23, and this was the one I feel like a lot of people were waiting for because it was announced really early. It was announced over like 5 years ago now. It was supposed to be the last little bit of this Wanda trilogy to announce, to bring in Wiccan and Speed. So when like a lot of shows like Armor Wars were getting dropped, other movies were getting dropped, we didn't know that this was still coming out. But clearly, Marvel has a story they want to tell, and they're doing it. You can see my boy Vision and Ultron. You can see Bentley and Spader. Just a goated cast. And like these are like serious actors. These are not like superhero actors who are just superhero actors for the fudge of it. Like these are like drama actors who are going to be in a serious, I mean, it's a funny superhero show. Don't get me wrong. We're talking about an android who has to rebuild his psyche after getting his heart broken by his girl. But like the performances are going to be a little more top notch. I was making a joke that like Marvel actually used to cook with they really used to cook with their scripts back in the day. Go back and watch Civil War. Listen to what Hawkeye tells Tony inside the Wrath. Bang, bang, bang. Here comes the futurist telling you what you think you know. This shit, because I didn't even do it justice. So I'm expecting that level of script writing from this group because these are some really good actors. Ryan Gosling took a time to stop being Ghost Rider to also tease his interest into the Star Wars world. I don't know why they're allowing this because he already prints money. He's already goated. Why are you going to give him more sauce? At this point, let's put him in DC. Why not? I would say make him Booster Gold, but they're about to make a really goated character to Booster Gold. I would say make him Mr. Miracle, but we already got a goated character, goated person playing Mr. Miracle. Make him Martian Manhunter. Why not? No, make him Darkseid. just kidding. Oh man. So I think we're kind of a little, they're going into their little animation stuff. So Zootopia 3, we're gonna kind of skim through this. I already gave my bits about the Avengers Doomsday trailer on TikTok. For me to alliterate what I said on TikTok, I don't care about this trailer that much. It's not a good trailer. Outside of Sue talking about, oh, we knew Victor was hurt. We didn't know that he was broken. That's all y'all want to say about it. Okay. I will accompany this the same way that I did on TikTok. I'm happy that they're using the energy of Avengers Doomsday to revitalize the Ultimate Universe in the comics and putting Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom, as the villain in the Ultimate Universe for this next major arc. So cool brand synergy there. I'm going to give props there. Frozen 3. Now, this was a trailer I was actually really excited to see. Where it was confirmed that we're getting Frozen 3, same cast, all the good stuff. We were already shown that the villain of this of this particular movie is going to be another ice queen. Some people are saying that they're taking the story arc they originally wanted to do with Elsa, kind of make her a full villain turn hero. And they're going to try to do it to a complete villain for this arc, for this character. So I'm excited to see it. Like, I was not really wooed, I wasn't wooed by Frozen 2. Where I feel like when you watch Frozen 1, even if you're not a animated person, even if you're not a Disney person, there's a certain wooness you get about a movie that just made well. And Frozen 2 didn't give me that wooness. Introduced a lot of cool world building stuff, a lot of a really pretty movie. Just not a wooing movie. Some things about Disneyland. Oh, we can skip the rest of this. I really don't care too much about the Disneyland stuff. I do really want to go to California Adventure for my birthday. Or maybe later this year. I don't know. I gotta figure that out. I just wanted to use it as a small little segue so I can pre-review Lanterns. So I watched Lanterns I actually watched it twice in the last day. I watched it yesterday morning and I watched it last night again. Pretty good first episode. The little threads they do. I like how James Gunn's universe, there's kind of like this rule about like making sure that anytime we talk about anything off screen, whenever we're talking about like what we were doing, that we use intentional references, and those intentional references more 9 out of 10 times are going to lead to plots later down the line. So you definitely caught a lot of that in that first episode. Real cool to see. I always feel like James Gunn's twist of the DC universe has this like this spice to it, this quirkiness to it, this wackiness to it that you just don't get from you don't get from Marvel. And my signal for my signal of this was how Jon Stewart is even acting in this series. He does very much give me Jon Stewart vibes from like the animated series. I've read some Jon Stewart stories, especially during the World of Light arcs. So he gives me that Jon Stewart vibe. But something like, I feel like down line, and this is just an inference, when you see that really intense scene very, very early in the series, and spoiler alerts, go spin by 30, 40 seconds if you don't want to hear the spoiler for Lanterns. But when you see Little John, when he's like watching an interview about how, and then his dad comes home and they do the scene of the gun of, Are You Afraid? And the gun shoots, he gets shot with the gun in the head, not in the head, in the apple on top of the head. Like, and then they just hug after. It's just so violently supportive. And it's extra weird because later on in the episode, John calls his dad because Hal just abandons him on the way to training. And you have this preconceived notion that like military parents are very aggressive. Military parents always want their kids to follow in their footsteps. That's why this guy wants John to be the Green Lantern so hard. Why he trains John so hard. But you also get like this twisted supportive energy from dad because he calls him and talks to him and calms him down on the way to training. And I do also like how we're not skirting away from the racial overtones of the Lanterns. Just like when John entered the scene in the 70s, that his first story did not shy away from the differences of a white superhero and a black superhero. We're not doing that here either. Talking about how like white men in power are allowed to be the mavericks like Hal Jordan is, and they're rewarded for it. They're honored for it. And black men they have to follow the rules, especially in the military. Hal and John are both military men. you have this idea that like John is a by the rules type of guy. That's the reason why, spoiler alert to John's story in the comics anyway. That's the reason why the Guardians picked him as a Earth Green Lantern, because they knew he could follow the rules, and they also knew that he still had the human heart like Hal did, so he was going to make the right decision at the end of the day. They trust John more they trust Hal, but they play with that notion very hard in this, and I'm happy that they don't shy away from it. I like how Kyle Chandler's Hal Jordan gives this energy that he's constantly in the know. He's constantly in control of the situation, that he doesn't ever sweat the hard stuff, even if something's going to blow up right in his face, that he goes with the flow, and he's going to always have a snarky attitude at the end. Definitely giving me that like New 52. If you guys ever seen the New 52 inspired animated movies, that type of Hal Jordan, like age up that Hal Jordan. Chef kiss. And then like, I'm not going to spoil too much of the plot past the first 20 minutes, but that last scene, amazing to get us hooked like that. So we can follow this down the line. And I'm wondering how the story is going to pan out. Is this going to be more of like an Earth One type of story where, because this show is called quote unquote Lanterns, that John isn't necessarily a Green Lantern, but he is still a part of the core itself? Is this called Lanterns because we're going to be going quickly into the other emotional spectrum characters? We went over those entities last week in the podcast. If you guys want that little reason to go back, but I really did enjoy watching Lanterns. It's really definitely that true detective energy that everybody has been putting out for it. If you're not a big DC person, this is definitely a way to jump in. This is definitely a way to show the wackiness of this world. And there's enough introductory world building in this particular series that when you jump into things like Peacemaker and Superman to backtrack, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I can understand why this and this is happening. But yeah, that's just my little bit on Lanterns. I did kind of want to show off the Polaroid collections for Pokemon. You know, Pokemon's going through their 30th anniversary, so many companies are doing these thematic collaborations with them. And I really do like all of these Polaroid designs. I personally have been thinking about buying a Polaroid. So to have like this special Pikachu design with the tail up, this Gen 3 Pokeball design, which is probably the one I'm going to try to see if I can find online, and then this special Sylveon one, it's really just attention to detail. I remember like 20 years ago, you couldn't get merch like this for your favorite franchise. So now you're getting these official high quality collaborations. You definitely got to cop them. This is why they scalp so fast. And at $139, this is a paycheck waiting for most people. So just a little bit of showing the love. I love showing y'all some of these Pokemon 30th anniversary collaborations. I'm gonna show them as the year goes along. But okay, let's get into this because I do want to play a little bit of Pokemon tonight. Rick and Morty season 9 just ended a couple weeks ago. I do not have Hulu Live. I do not watch cable television. So I had to catch it 3 weeks later. So while I was kind of watching the last part of this series, I saw that their spinoff was coming out already. Towards around episode 7. I'm seeing that this Obama stand-in that they dropped so early in the series has spinned off and had so many one-off episodes that they finally have just jumped into the deep end and gave President Curtis his own self-titled TV show. But let's talk about Big Brother real quick. Rick and Morty as a show feels like it's made for me particularly. It has the best writer from Community. It has a lot of crazy sci-fi elements like Futurama. And it has that emotional, like, adult storytelling like BoJack Horseman. So I'm personally not surprised that the show has ran for like 9 whole freaking seasons. But I am kind of surprised that it's taken so long for a successful spinoff to get here. As you guys know, like a couple years back, Adult Swim tried to drop a couple of like anime shorts every once in a while, and that kind of gave them the guts to drop Rick and Morty the anime. I kind of do want to go back and talk about that show, but there's so much going on in that show that I have to like really sit and like take notes. That show wasn't well received, mostly because I feel like it was anime nerds making an anime about a time like with the aesthetic of anime for when they enjoyed it, and not like a modern anime retelling. So I was really surprised that they decided to roll the dice again and give the Obama stand-in his own show. Now, President Curtis is a cool little spinoff that's going to be exploring more of the Earth-adjacent sci-fi elements of the Rick and Morty universe. I did notice around season 5 or season 6 when we had that giant rift, I want to say season 6, where portal travel wasn't really popular because they destroyed it for canonical reasons. We had a lot of Earth adventures. We had a lot of cool Earth adventures like that Vanilla episode, and then the dinosaur episode, and the fortune cookie episode. But I bet during that time, the writers came up with a lot of good Earth adjacent stories. And because we had to get back into the multiverse when it came to Rick and Morty, they needed somewhere to let these stories thrive. So they decided to let one of Rick and Morty's closest allies, President Curtis, take the mantle on that sense. And they did not joke around when they gave him some good characters to play off. So let's kind of talk about this when we're talking about episode 1. So episode 1 drops us right off the cold open with President Curtis giving a press conference about taking down international figure Paul Bundy. He talks about taking out Paul Bundy like he's taking down a cryptid. That's kind of like an indication of the energy the show's going to give off. A lot of like folklore and rumors and like conspiracy theories all mixed into like the sci-fi elements of this show. But this already introduced us to our three main characters. President Curtis, which he really doesn't need much introduction. He's the president of Earth, president of the United States, self-proclaimed president of Earth. And he has just been on a wild emotional road in Rick and Morty. But in this show, he is teamed up with his half leprechaun bodyguard, Jim, who's like this straight A's, hard, crazy security bodyguard. Like, it's really hard to describe the level of like paranoid this man is. He feels like he's always coming down off of something. But these two are now being paired or trio up with the new chief of staff, Ro. She's half cyborg, but she's really like this by the rules type of girl. And if you know President Curtis from Rick and Morty, you know that dynamic is going to work off well with his wacky sense of adventure. We already started this episode off with like this really crazy plot of the CIA trying to trick President Curtis into giving up footage of the moon landing. And it really even starts off with this crazy scene where the CIA agent is coming in. He's all extra charismatic, but he's still trying to like trick everybody, but he's not trying to play coy about tricking everybody. He's always making jokes. He's confusing people's names. He's talking about the assistants. He's redirecting people out the room. He's putting stuff down to trick people into like thinking that there's a bomb in the room. He does all this to get them out the way so he can go down to the underground tunnels below the White House. Now, this is a set that we have seen in the Rick and Morty show, but it's cool to also see the other wings of this underground tunnel. We start this crazy like chase scene. And we also kind of get that signature like on the nose humor in this. We're seeing our three characters play off of each other, and then we're seeing all these like really wacky things about the presidents have stored here. I always make fun of the fact that like they talk about this racist Knight Rider car, and like they try to skirt around the fact that it's racist, but it keeps mistaking President Curtis for Mr. T. And Ro even makes fun of President Curtis for this. She's like, yo, like, you don't want to destroy nothing in here. You want to hold all this stuff so precious because they're trying to find a getaway vehicle. And she's like, bro, if you don't understand that these old white men don't give a fudge about you as much as you give a fudge about this office, we could break into one of these cars and chase after the CIA guy. And that's what they eventually do. Eventually they catch up to homeboy after a tense diversions. And they notice that he was trying to take footage from the moon landing. Now, this is a very funny conspiracy theory that we've never actually been to the moon. But this show plays on the fact that, yes, there are two different footages of the moon landing, a fake one and the real one. But the CIA were after the real ones, not the fake ones. This is the whole entire joke about the fake ones were being filmed by Stanley Kubrick. But the twist on this for the show is the fact that Stanley Kubrick is overly abusive to his actors, but it makes that joke that 152 people died trying to fake the moon landing. But Archero basically says hey, yo, why would you want the real one if it's so important? What y'all trying to hide? And we start getting this really weird explanation on how JFK made a super moon baby and shot him up to the moon so he can be protected from the earth and then can come back down with his siblings and be the rulers of earth. And I was just yeah, these are the plot points I'm really not a fan of. Because I get the joke. Because even it kind of boils down a little bit more that they were sending more babies up so that he would have kids with the babies. But he'd eventually just eating all the babies because he was super jealous jerk. And then when I got to the end of that part of the joke, I had to ask myself, I thought Justin Roiland was the villain of the script during Rick and Morty. And don't get me wrong, Justin Roiland is an actual jackass. But when it comes to the writing, should I throw more hate on Dan Harmon? Should Dan Harmon take more of an L for these weird incest baby jokes? If I find out Dan Harmon is the reason why we have a giant space incest baby, I'm challenging you to a Yu-Gi-Oh duel, sir. Long story short, Curtis just cuts his losses, beat up the moon baby, and because the CIA was trying to blackmail him for that footage, he just comes out and tells the press that, Ayo, the CIA was trying to blackmail me to give him some information, but instead of giving them the information, I'm just going to tell you guys that I pooped my pants during working out one day, and I wiped my poopy hands on all the equipment before I could wash my hands. And sure, it's a super embarrassing thing, and sure you kind of don't want that to go out in public, but that's definitely a really gross type of humor. And it made me not be a super fan of how episode 1 ended. Now there are 4 whole episodes out currently from the recording of this episode. Episode 2 kind of plays off this idea that President Curtis is a Marine. They're going to the Bermuda Triangle to check out the supernatural prison, but the warden himself is a Marine, and it plays off this idea that Marines act super brotherly with each other. So it blinds President Curtis to the actual mistakes of the prison. And that one was kind of it was a little bit better, but it kind of still fell flat for me. It's also Ro trying to learn that she can't be at straight lace if she's going to be able to keep up with Curtis's antics. By the time I was done with episode 2, the first week that this came out, I was kind of it's whatever. Let's see if it makes a whole season. Maybe it's going to be a layup to Rick and Morty season 10 or something. But I will say that I started to feel a little better about the show once I saw episode 3, The X. Now, at the end of episode 1, we do a lot of teasing to future plot lines. Jimmy having EMP bullets for Ro, but President Curtis looking very lonely in his bed. And episode 3 both shows us his ex, the new governor of Illinois. And they start teasing why Curtis and her have separated. And as you can tell, it's mostly because Curtis doesn't know how to not be a flash bloating jerk when it comes to his supernatural antics. She straight up tells him this whole entire night, this whole entire episode, dude, I need you to just have some nuance in your appearance. Make sure your presence, but make sure you're not in anyone's face. Make sure there's nothing weird. Make sure you don't get into anything weird, but also I don't want to see it and I don't want to be involved in it. And he tries his best to follow her. Now, I will say that the B plot for this shows Ro and Jim having to face the consequences of Ro snitching on Jim and I want to say episode 2. So they have to go into this like Westworld style training kit place. When I tell you that I was just unimpressed with this part, it was crazy. But with these two off at training, it does let President Curtis show off his second most reliable staff member, or bodyguard, which is like this guy named Chomps. They make this joke that Chomps is the coolest thing about him. But Chomps is a real one because the governor of Illinois, Curtis's ex-wife, is very big on like social reform programs. She's reformed a lot of the supernatural elements of Chicago and Illinois, like Candyman, werewolves, vampires. But that does cause her to have a lot of targets on her back. And we see that a werewolf cult is trying to kill her for these reform changes. Curtis tries to handle it nonchalantly in the background, and you see Chomps kind of get real about it and do a little thing. But it also shows that Higgins is really down. Like, he is down to fight. Curtis tries his best to hide this werewolf thing from his wife, but when the werewolf terror is basically taking over the bar that they're holding the gala in, we see Curtis's wife show that she's just as capable of dealing with supernatural stuff too, by also extending the empathy of trying to show these werewolves that they have a chance to change. We get a cool little action scene. Chomps gets hit by a werewolf bite, so he starts turning into a werewolf. But we do start seeing a little bit of character growth from President Curtis. He tells his wife that he tried his best and she appreciates it. And she says maybe she was a little too harsh on him. And you kind of see a little sprout of a little reconciliation between them. They may not get back together, but maybe they'll be good friends. But this is the type of character exploration I really wanted from this type of show. Now, episode 4 kind of just has another really big goofy plot about the Louisiana Purchase and the French coming to try to take it back. But overall, I'm kind of lukewarm on President Curtis as a show. I can see the GOAT is there. I can see that we could be doing greatness. But also, I don't know, man. I don't know. I was hoping for a little bit more. On that note, I will be watching it all the way through, though. I have a Rick and Morty episode planned. I might just do a whole Rick and Morty episode where I do like this article talk and we talk about Rick and Morty season 9. But we will revisit President Curtis when season 1 is over. Kind of want to just enjoy it for the time. So if you guys know, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Ted Lasso on the podcast because we knew season 4 was coming out. We kind of wanted to see what characters were coming back and what characters were not going to come. But honestly, after I did that, I was kind of thinking, why? We're so quick to give these shows revelations because they made money. These characters did resonate with people. But I really want to ask a question while thinking about this. Because I watched Ted Lasso when it came out. That last season came out. Right when season 3 came out, I binge watched the first 2 seasons, watched season 3, and just, bawled out, had my moments with it. So when it was done, I thought I was done with it. I felt that catharsis that you get when you're done with a really good show, with a really good story arc. So to see that, hey, we're going to get the whole Richmond gang back together. We see Leslie, we see Kelly, we see Rebecca, we see Roy. And knowing what Ted Lasso means to people, being a authentically good guy just for the sake of being a authentically good guy, I was starting to think, were we just going to be throwing out good vibes again like Brooklyn Nine-Nine did with their later seasons? Were we just giving people more of what they wanted and not really digging anything deeper into it? That's the question that I had going into Ted Lasso season 4. What would Ted Lasso season 4 even be about? What would we even get about exploring women's football? What types of stories and allegories were this show ready to explore by putting its titular character, who already went through a 3-season arc and reconciled his divorce, reconciled who he is beyond his family? Was I ready to see this character jump back into the ring? And I was ready to see it. I was ready to see if episode 1 and episode 2 could answer this question for me. And to be honest with you, episode 1 throws you right in the middle of it. we see Ted bringing that happy-go-lucky energy that he has to being an assistant manager at a grocery store. Hear me out. The man that brought AFC Richmond out of the Premier League to the Champions League is now an assistant manager at a grocery store. And he's a good one, though. I'm not even going to lie. He knows one of the employees is stealing, so he goes and plays this prank on him by taking all this product and stuffing it all inside of the locker next to the kid, stuffing it and telling him, like, yeah, I've been doing this for years. But I hope you don't get caught. Kind of scaring the guy straight. And even when like Ted talks to the manager, he gives the kid some credit, some slack. So, Ted's just out here being good man as he can. But he does run into a former player of his, Joe Conroy. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I do not know much about sports in general. But football, Marshawn Lynch, that's all I got for you. Ted sees this old player of his head. Player has this kid around his neck, and they start talking about being a fathers, and they're bonding over it. But that's when you kind of start seeing the cracks in Ted's life. Ted talks about how he went out 3 years, gives you a whole entire story of Ted Lasso, the original series. But he talks about how he came back so he could be closer to his son, watch his son growing up. Because even in season 3, there was a lot of like things going on with Henry, and Ted didn't want to be away as these things were happening. He wanted to be able to watch his son grow up, support his son as he was going through the hardships of being a boy. But as he's struggling to find his place in this world, just being an assistant manager at this store, you kind of see that he's just not happy. He has a smile, but he's not happy. Shortly after this, we see the Richmond game. Rebecca, Leslie, Kelly, they've come down to watch a local women's soccer match. And they've come to stop by to meet Ted. We even see him do a little trick on them where he closes the garage door but runs out to greet them. And then we have this really good scene of them out eating that Midwestern barbecue. They make a little bit of joke about Kansas City is in Missouri, but Kansas is next to Missouri, and this is a whole big mess of geography. They keep looping back to it a bunch of times because they're traveling between the two areas. But even at barbecue lunch, you get this idea that it's been kind of stagnant for these guys for the last 3 years. Kelly's doing good in her career, but that's all she's been doing. She's just been in her career. Rebecca is still in that honeymoon phase with her man, but that's mostly due to the fact that her job leaves her busy and she only really goes out to see him when they're traveling. And nobody really wants to bicker about mess when they're traveling and they're back and forth. And Higgins is just being the good boy he always is, talking about all these things going on with his sons and all this remodeling he did in his family. Now, this little reunion is not without its awkward tensions. Ted kind of scoops over what he's doing in life, and it also kind of leads into the reason why they're out here anyway. And the gang asks Ted if he would come and coach their women football team. Ted hits him with this super maybe. He's like, nah, maybe. I'll think about it. And it kind of doesn't give anybody any confidence. But because they're in town for a few days, they're going to see Henry's game. There's a big Major League women's football game coming out, or a soccer game coming soon. They're going to wait for Ted's answer after the fact. Now, on the way to Henry's game, Ted does tell Henry, like, hey, yo, my coworkers are out here. These guys. And Henry kind of asks, like, hey, well, are they here to offer you a job? Ted tells Henry straight up, like, no, I'm not going to take the job. I want to stay here with you, my boy. And there's kind of like this tender moment that, like, Ted's kind of holding himself back because he wants to make sure he's here for Henry. He wants to make sure the things that happened in season 3 don't happen again. Where Henry's getting bullied, he's getting picked on, and there's no one there to support him. Now, after they get this hard maybe from Ted, we do get a little bit of information from Leslie that the women's team is sinking so much money out of AFC Richmond that if the women's teams don't break even or bring a profit, that the financial fallout will affect its men's team and they may not have a team anymore. This gets Rebecca a little, but she shakes it off and says, we're going to get a good coach, we're going to get a good team, and we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to push forward. But next day at the game, man, We get Ted telling Henry he's not going to leave him. You got Rebecca having this big chip on her shoulder. But at the game, we start seeing another crack in Ted's life here. The gang asked Ted why he's not coaching Henry's team because he's such a good coach. And he says coach him and dad him are two separate characters, two different people. He doesn't want to do that to Henry. But we also see Henry being picked on by the coach because even though Henry made a good play, it wasn't the play that the supervisor wanted him to do. So he felt bad about it. You do kind of see Ted a little bit on edge. He presses the coach at the end of the game and basically says, like, hey, you didn't have to do that to my son. He may have disobeyed your orders, but, he made a good play. And he said, you know what, Mr. Lasso? Keep your opinions to yourself. Which kind of gets Ted a little ticked. It's surprising to see Ted get mad. I like how there's also a lot of C-plots in this episode. Something Ted Lasso really does a lot of time when they go international outside of Britain is they do a lot of these location scenes. And there's two major ones that I want to kind of talk about. There's this whole entire thing with Rebecca and Keely where they go into this Midwestern boutique where the owner has been, doing her best since the housing crash, but she does a lot of her good sales online, that she's very proud of all her work. And even though Rebecca doesn't really vibe with the style, she likes the girl's entrepreneurship so much that she just buys a really nice piece. And you feel like it's not out of pity. This is Rebecca actually supporting someone who's doing good. It's not just a pity buy. It's just not since you've been struggling, let me help you out. It really does feel like, hey, I support your dreams. Women support women. And my best support is with my wallet. So she buys a good dress. And Rebecca even rocks that dress at the local women's game in a bit. She looks like a full-on cowgirl. Keely's also with her, which is real nice. Keely encourages her. We also see Leslie accidentally having to take a tour of the National Negro Baseball Museum after his Jazz Museum ticket was not honored because they were closed, I believe. So it really cracks me up that we get this really good history about American baseball and how the Negro Leagues played a major point of love for these people because people couldn't pay for the stadiums at the Negro, or they couldn't pay a lot for all the stuff at the Negro Leagues. So you really have to understand that the players were there for the love of the game. They didn't get big multi-billionaire contracts and stuff, or even air contracts like a lot of places did at the time. So I just like how we always do a cool little history story with Higgins. And it's never played off as preachy. It's never played off as holier than thou. It's just always good vibes when it comes to Leslie exploring something that he didn't know. Now, this does all kind of accumulate to right before the game. We get Ted running into, trying to help his mom clean out some of the stuff that she's moving out of, some of the stuff that's in the house because she's moving out. And Ted runs into some of his dad's old keepsakes from his job at the grocery store. He goes down to his mom and he talks about hey, yo, Dad just used to love talking about his job all the time and just really love sharing it with us. Why don't you ever ask me about my job? And his mom probably hits the hardest line ever. She straight up says, if you don't care to tell me about your job, why would I ask you? And it really hits Ted home. It super shows that he's super conflicted during the women's football game. And when we get back on the private jet, you kind of get this sense of idea that he told him no. Keely tells him hey, I love you always. You're one of my best friends. This is not a goodbye hug. This is I'll see you later hug. And she gives him a hug. Higgins and him do a good old bro shake. Good old I admire you. And Rebecca is gifted the locket she lost and is given the powers that she's unlocked. Sorry about that. Rebecca also gets on the plane, kind of taunting Ted and being hey, yo, I really wish you'll come with us, but I'm going to take this brisket, I'm going to take your love, and I'm going to think about you always. Ted starts driving home from all of that, drives through Kansas City, sees all his favorite place, takes a look at the tea bag Rebecca left him, There's a little joke on the fact that he never really enjoyed tea. And after going through all this memorabilia one more last time, going through his own Richmond memorabilia, he comes to the realization that like he does want to coach again. He texts Michelle and he asks like, hey, what if we just move to England? And the text is right back. Sure, why not? A change of scenery would be nice. Ted says, what do you think Henry would think? And we get the drop that Henry was the one texting him. There's this whole entire bit that like Ted never charges the iPad, so Henry's always on her phone. And Ted's biggest fear of his family not moving with him, not being able to see his son grow up, is squashed, and the whole family is just going to end up going to Britain. And which is real cool. Like Ted's ex-wife is real cool in that sense, where like they're both single, they are career people. Why not move and see a new part of the world? Mostly because like, AO, like we got a kid to raise. So episode 1 really does set up this idea of like, what is Ted? Ted is struggling with not having this fulfillment in his life. And he looks up to his dad. His dad is one of his biggest idol, and he wants to be more like his dad, who was always there for him. But his dad also he also needs to figure out his fulfillment in life, the balance in that. And I really hope that Ted Lasso season 4 is about that balance. I really think that Ted's coaching style is a reason why, or the way Ted coaches and the fallout of his professional life is probably the reason why his marriage broke up. And I'll be interested to see if we're actually going to confront some of those feelings now that Homegirl is going to England with us. Now, episode 2 is just a fire one. Less of a lore episode, more of catching up with everyone back in England. We start Ted's tenure back at AFC Richmond by going through the old famous halls that we used to go through the men's changing room that we spent so many seasons in. We even see him catch a glimpse of Roy being just as snappy with the press that he was in the original series. But after having a conversation with Higgins and Rebecca, I'm also thinking Rebecca about helping him get Michelle and Henry out here, we realize this episode is really going to be about introducing us to Coach Chilton. Higgins and Rebecca already have this feeling about Chilton that she's kind of a C word. I can't say it, I'm American. But Ted is eager to work with her as long as he can. Which, after this quick little exchange between Rebecca and her in the morning, is going to be Friday. Coach Chilton is not a big fan that a man is going to be coaching the women's team. And she even questions Rebecca about it. Kind of getting Rebecca in her own hand about her true intentions about being pro-women, being a woman's woman. We do get to meet these new cast of ladies, and we will talk about them a little bit more down the line when we revisit this show. But you also kind of get these weird norms about women's soccer, how talented sisters who make it up the league are going to be in these lower divisions, how a lot of women are going to be dating because they're on the same team. Something that's kind of reflected in the WNBA too. You get the sense that this is going to be a same type of colorful cast that we got back in the original series. Now, as we get along, we notice that like when Roy and Ted reunite, they talk about Beard a little bit. They get it. We start learning that Beard is freaking out now that Ted is back, but also that Beard and his wife are going through something. We don't know what this is. After getting reacquainted with everything and seeing how shots the women's training room is, or the women's locker room is, you start to see that Ted realized that his job here is very hard and it's going to be an uphill battle. Especially getting these women a permanent and normal spot to be able to change and be comfortable in. Now, there's this whole entire scene of like Rebecca spiraling out because Chilton kind of inferred that she wasn't a feminist, which is really funny because they made this whole entire joke about how inferring things or the assumption of things is the whole thing about things. Hilariously, like, oblivious. You do get this part where Keely comes in and she asks Rebecca if they can have the visitors locker room for the women's team. She says no because they spent a lot of money on it. So she asks, can I have the old training room? And they said, or the old away room. And she says, yes. Her and Roy even share this little moment that like, that's Keely's like signature move, the bait and switch. Ted's outside. We also get these scenes of like Ted kind of poking at Chilton, trying to break down that ice wall. But we see that wall instantly shut down once one of the players tears her AOC during practice. This player tore her whole ACL. Chilton immediately gets into assistant coach mode, nurturing mode, and follows the player out to the hospital. Ted, naturally just as concerned, waits for Chilton to get back, which surprises Chilton when she gets into the locker room. This is happening on her last day of this job. She tells Ted that, hey, my replacements are in the hallway ready for you to interview them. And Ted kind of has this heart-to-heart to her saying like, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't want anybody new. I'm going to be able to do this with you because I know your story. He goes about this whole entire story where Chilton was the player who torn her ACL 3 different times and gave up her dreams of being a football player. And how now she tries her best to make sure that other women don't have to go through the same journey she went through. He saw that caring side of her today out on the field. And he wants that coach on his team. He does his normal dad coach energy, turns around, gives her a chance to have her emotions, then turn around so she can act serious in front of him again. But it's just such a nice moment. One of those really good Ted Lasso moments. Now, I will say, during this whole entire time, you have this whole entire bit about Roy and Beard talking of having a breakup moment, a super on the nose breakup moment. But just as Ted and Chilton have finally broke down the wall, Beard is released as his contract as assistant coach of the male division and jumps into Ted's arm as the second assistant coach for the women's division, showing that we now have our main trio for this season. Real fire, real fire. We even get a little tidbit where Rebecca, struggling writing Chilton's recommendation letter, comes her and confronts her about throwing her through a loop all day, telling her, I regret that you won't see the fruit of this revelation. Chilton telling her, like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. Ted wants me. And getting Rebecca to be reprised. It really does show that, like, hey, this show knows the dynamic of these characters, know who we need to add, who needs to go and who needs to be added in, so we can have a really good ensemble cast, and even showing a little bit of a tidbit to show why certain characters may be coming back in different seasons. I'm just saying. But it was nice. It was nice to see these characters. And to be honest with you, showing all these signs of now let's answer the question. Showing all these signs of Rebecca overthinking herself and doubting herself, showing how much emotional weight the women's team is throwing on her, showing that Ted is not fulfilled by just being a dad and is taking the grace that he gets from his ex-wife, them all moving out to England to really prove himself as a coach, showing that the ensemble cast back at ACF Richmond is still just as lovable as always. I do see that Ted Lasso season 4 really wants to do the true Cinderella story that season 1 was trying to do, taking this unlikely underdog women's team to the championships, saving AFC Richmond, and saving everybody's bacon once again. I'm excited to see what Ted Lasso season 4 is going to do for us. And if you're excited to see what Ted Lasso season 4 is going to do for us, make sure you hit that like button, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check me out every week here on the Marz Variety Show, where we review the latest in TV. We talk about movies and TV shows. And then we're definitely going to wrap back on in to Ted Lasso season 4. On that note, if you're catching me on the live show, you're catching me on the recording, you're catching me on the audio, I'm going to see you next week. I'm going to appreciate y'all next week. And I'm going to give y'all a big old hearts and hug. This is Marz signing off on the Marz Variety Show. And I'm going to catch y'all next week. Peace. Okay, after a nice little, let me brew some water for my ramen. Let me get a little situated for the evening, y'all. And I best believe we go play some Pokemon. I'm gonna start turning some stuff on now. Turn on some stuff right now. I'm even gonna do this. Hold on. If you're on the stream, don't go nowhere.